Hi, welcome to the Global Dare Foundation Patient Collaborator Training Series. My name is Mousumi Bose, and I will be your narrator throughout this introductory video, as well as the other training modules that you will see if you decide to take the opportunity through the Global Dare Foundation to be trained as an active patient collaborator in ongoing and upcoming research for adult refsum disease. These modules are really meant to empower you to take an active role in the management of your health as well as the health of the greater adult refsum community. And we do this by giving you tools and knowledge into the clinical research process, as well as into the development of new therapies and treatments for diseases like adult refsum. In addition to the direct information that I will be sharing with you in my slide presentations, I will also be sharing a number of different case studies that involve the work of different patient and community collaborators so that you can get an idea of what the real world impact that these collaborators have on the communities that they serve, as well as get an idea of the impact that you could potentially have on the greater adult refsum community. So let's go ahead and get started. So I will begin with a little bit about myself and why I was asked to be your narrator as you navigate through these modules. So I am currently serving as the co-chair for the Medical and Scientific Advisory Board for the Global Dare Foundation. I'm also an associate professor in the Department of Nutrition and Food Studies at Montclair State University in New Jersey. So I have a considerable amount of experience in delivering educational presentations like this. But most importantly, I'm the mother of Ilan, who is that little guy that you see pictured here with me. Ilan was diagnosed with a disease called Zellweger spectrum disorder shortly after his birth. ZSD is a peroxisomal disorder just like adult refsum disease, but it's generally more severe than adult refsum as it affects patients early in childhood or, like in the case of Ilan, right when he was born. Ilan had a very severe form of this disorder, and he passed away shortly after his first birthday. And certainly, the loss of Ilan was one of the most devastating experiences that I had to face as a mother. But I think it's also important to note, especially in the context of these modules, that during the course of Ilan's life, you know, don't get me wrong, I cherish every single moment that I had with Ilan, being his mom. But being the caregiver to a child with a rare, very debilitating illness was really devastating in itself. No one knew anything about the disease. The community was quite small, so it was really challenging feeling this alone and feeling without any options to help my son. And it's this feeling of helplessness and loneliness that were factors that really motivated me in figuring out what I needed to do with myself after my son had passed away. I was determined to do my part in improving the circumstances for families affected by this disorder, as well as other rare diseases, even if it simply just meant helping families feel less alone in their journey. So I leveraged the lived experiences that I had with my son. I also leveraged the observed experiences that I saw my son have, as well as whatever skills that I had picked up along the way throughout the course of my life. And I used all of this to work with other healthcare providers and researchers in the field to make certain impacts. And some of the things that we were able to do were to develop a set of treatment guidelines for ZSD. I worked with another peroxisomal disorder group to help them develop a caregiver reported quality of life survey tool using feedback directly from caregivers with children that had this disease to develop content for this survey tool. And most recently, I was the moderator for several meetings where I led patient and caregiver advocates to share their lived experiences directly with members of the Food and Drug Administration through the patient-focused drug development initiative, which is something that was started by the FDA to actually help improve the clinical trial process. And throughout all of these things that I've had the honor to work on, I will share that my educational background and my academic training only contributed a very small part of my ability to do all the things that I've had the honor to do. The thing that really empowered me throughout all of these experiences were really the things that really empowered me were my strong personal connections to the communities that I was serving and my own desire to improve the quality of life for families going through similar situations. And that's the main point that I really want to drive in here as you go through these modules. All you really need here is that desire to improve your quality of life, your current management plan, as well as a desire to help the community, your larger community. If you have all of these things, you are an excellent candidate to be a patient community collaborator for adult refsum disease, and you are an excellent candidate for taking these training modules. So let's talk a little bit about what patient community collaborators are. So as this slide suggests, patient collaborators have active and engaged partnerships with healthcare professionals. And when I say healthcare professionals, this includes clinicians and providers, as well as the scientific researchers within the field. And throughout all of these partnerships, all of these parties focus in on either the current management of patient health within a community like the adult refsum community, or in the shaping of research towards better approaches to manage the condition like adult refsum disease. The shared goal across all of these partners is to develop patient-centric healthcare and management that results in the best possible outcomes for the patient and their community. So to be more specific, when I say delivery of patient-centered care, this may involve the evaluation of clinical outcomes that matter most to patients. So for example, trying to understand what are the symptoms that affect the daily life of a patient the most. Is the ability to walk the thing that affects them the most during the day? Is it the ability to see, to hear? Is it seizures that they may be having? Is it something else? These are things that only a patient or someone very close to a patient can educate all of the partners that are listed here on. And this is why this patient collaboration is so important, and serving as a patient collaborator can have such a huge impact within the field. In addition to trying to understand what are the symptoms that could be used as clinical outcomes for trials, also understanding what are the available treatments for a specific symptom. Do they work effectively? Are there side effects? Are these side effects worth it compared to not treating the symptom at all? Once again, these are only things that patients and those that are close to them can answer to. And really at the end of the day, looking for newer and better treatments. So this is just a high level description of what a patient community collaborator has the ability to do. So you've heard my story, and hopefully that serves as a little bit of a case study to give you a real world example of what me as a community collaborator was what I was able to do as a result of my experience with my son. I want to share one more case study to give you an idea of what a powerful impact a patient community collaborator can have. So I have embedded a YouTube video here. I'm not going to be playing here within this recording, but I will provide the link. And the story that you're going to see here is of Kasha Morris. Kasha is the mother of an adult patient with a rare disease called Tango 2 deficiency disorder. And in this YouTube video, she shares her story about how simply observing her son's good days and bad days and seeing if there are any common factors that contributed to either a good or a bad day just doing this made a huge contribution in the overall understanding of Tango 2 deficiency disorder. Simply her tracking her son's vitamin intake, just doing that really served as what is currently the foundation of how a lot of Tango 2 deficiency disorder is managed and treated currently. So I'm not going to go into too many details with this story, but I encourage you to watch the video on your own to get a good idea of what patient collaborators have the power and the know-how to do, provided that they have all the training. So if you're trying to decide whether or not you are a good fit to be a patient community collaborator, there's really just one major requirement. Really, all you need is to be able to share the lived experience of someone, including yourself, who is a patient that is diagnosed with a disease like adult refsum. In the rare disease space, because there are often so many unknowns about a disorder, this patient community collaboration is particularly important. So once again, this is the only requirement. Anyone who can share the lived experience and insight of what it's like to live with a rare disease. So that could be you as a patient. That could also be a family member, someone who has daily and frequent interactions with a person diagnosed with a rare disease. And this is oftentimes the case when the patient themselves cannot share this experience through any sort of challenges that they have because of their own disorder or due to some other circumstances. Additionally, community leaders within a patient community can also be potential candidates to be a patient collaborator if they can share on that lived experience of what it's like to live with a rare disease like adult refsum. So once you get this training, once you have these tools and the information that is needed to feel confident and empowered enough to serve as a patient community collaborator, these are some of the really important contributions you can make to clinical research and ultimately clinical care for adult refsum. So this is not meant to be a list of all the things that a patient collaborator will do. These are just some of the things that a patient collaborator could do if this is what they wanted to do. So I've listed all of these bullet points here sort of in the context of understanding the clinical research process. So I'm going to actually revisit this list once we get to the module on explaining the clinical research process, which is going to be the next module. But here is just a smattering of some of the things that you could do as a patient collaborator, talking about sharing lived experiences to inform information on clinical outcomes, promoting awareness of new science and new research that is out there. So many things that your voice can have an impact on. And like I said, I've sort of organized these as a way to sort of show you how this fits into the clinical research process. So I'm going to come back to this list when in the next module when we talk about the clinical research process and incorporate all of these bullet points into where that fits into that timeline of clinical research. So as we are coming to the close of this presentation, I wanted to share with you the planned agenda for the upcoming training modules for patient community collaborators. We've just gone through this first module introducing this concept of what a patient community collaborator is. In the next module, I will touch upon the important role of patient and community collaboration within the context of clinical research, and later we will explore the specifics of clinical research that are relevant to rare disease, as well as the clinical trial process and the approval process for new treatments. We will also have an additional set of modules that will cover the details of adult refsum disease. So in total, there will be about 13 online training modules for this program. And as this patient collaborator training is supported by a grant from the Chan Zuckerberg initiatives, we will need to provide information to them on the outcomes of this training. So we will ask you to take part in a short quiz after every module to gain some insight on what your big takeaways were for each module. In every step of this training, I will be highlighting the important role of patient and community feedback in helping to shape these aspects of clinical research, clinical trials, and the drug approval process, which will ultimately pave the way for hopefully better treatments with more meaningful impacts and improved quality of life for patients and families. So I hope you will consider being a part of this patient collaborator training, where you can play a significant role in the management and the care for yourself, as well as the greater adult refsum community. So with that, I just want to say thank you for watching. I look forward to being your guide through the next and other future modules. I'll see you then.